And we continue at 2:06 in the afternoon on the John Phillips Show. Mr. Randy Wings in Culver City.
John, the constant L.A. riots have even made the city of Los Angeles a punchline for The Daily Show with Jon Stewart. This was last night.
And quick question. For those of you who live in that area, is your city ever not on fire? Whether you win a basketball championship, a World Series championship, whether you have an exploding piñata gender reveal gone wrong, congratulations, it's a boy and an evacuation. Or you're just protesting the Trump administration's expanded deportation raids, LA continues to be our most flammable city.
Not if you listen to Maxine Waters. She said nothing happened.
I guess Imelda didn't get the memo.
Those who are protesting want to get louder. They want to get more violent.
I have a feeling that's going to be national news.
I just got lucky. I saw that McDonald was there, and I was like, oh, what's Imelda have to say? And literally the first thing she says out of her mouth is this.
Those who are protesting want to get louder. They want to get more violent.
Okay. Who wants to bet that's going to be on cable news tonight?
If it is, not that we need the credit, but you know where you heard it first.
I predict it's going to be out there within the hour.
You know what they call it, John, when every single elected Democrat in California says there was no violence and Imelda says this?
Those who are protesting want to get louder. They want to get more violent.
They call that the broken windy theory.
Broken windy theory.
Okay. They sent Maxine Waters out there to be the one to put out the company line. So let's listen to the long version of Maxine Waters, because this is some version of what they're all saying.
And even those who were out of step with what we are advocating, peaceful protest, did not create any violence. Nobody was shot. Nobody was killed. Get it in your head. And so when martial law is called, what are you going to say? I missed the point. Don't miss the point, you all. Don't think that somehow, because they called out the National Guard, there was violence. There was no violence. I was on the street. I know. And I went from downtown detention back out into the community, talking to people what happened in Paramount, what happened in Compton, what happened in Inglewood. So, first of all, get it straight. And don't just rely on what you're being told or the few incidents that you saw.
Okay, so that's the official Democratic Party company line. Nothing happened. And then Democratic LA City Councilwoman Imelda Padilla let the cat out of the bag.
Those who are protesting want to get louder. They want to get more violent.
It's all coming apart, isn't it?
The neighborhood kids, the down-ass kids don't like it.
What's funny is Imelda's going to get in more trouble for the truth than all the rest of them are for a lie. This is how they were able to tell us that Joe Biden was fine for so long. Because the way it works is there's a pack mentality. If everyone gets on the same page and says that Biden's fine, and you say Biden's senile, the pack will turn on you. And then they'll cut off your information. You won't get invited to the parties. You won't break any news because you are in exile. So everyone says that Biden's fine until the debate happens, and then they all turn on him. Now they're all saying nothing happened. Everything's peaceful. Nobody got hurt. There was no violence. Nothing to see here. The LAPD has everything under control. The first person to spill the beans was the police chief, who said that the cops were overwhelmed. And then Imelda spilled the beans about violence.
Those who are protesting want to get louder. They want to get more violent.
It also dispels the other thing that Karen Bass has been out there saying all day long, Gavin Newsom as well, that the people that are committing the violence, the people that are throwing rocks at police cars and at police horses, the people shooting fireworks, those are outside agitators. We don't know who they are. Those are the anarchists. Well, according to Imelda, those are the protesters.
Those who are protesting want to get louder. They want to get more violent.
All right, let's go back to the phones and welcome Dee in Sacramento. Dee, hello.
Hi. I text periodically, but this one was an awful long one. I figured I needed to call in, but I really appreciate you guys' show. You not only educate us on things that we would have no idea was going on, but you also entertain us, which is very nice.
Well, thank you.
I can't help but try and get people to understand this is not about ICE. It's not about immigration. If it were, why would they be literally tearing down cities that offer them sanctuary? I mean, the governor and Bass have said that law enforcement will not assist ICE, that they're welcome, that we'll give you cash, we'll give you clothes, we'll give you food, we'll give you shelter. But they're literally tearing the city apart bit by bit. And
because the sanctuary cities really only protect the criminals. The sanctuary cities won't turn over people who are incarcerated in city jails, county jails, who have been arrested, whatever the case may be, who ICE requests a transfer on. So what happens is ICE has to cast a wider net because they can't work with the local authorities. So in many ways, if you're a sanctuary city, if you're a sanctuary state, instead of just focusing on the people who are in the jails, what you force ICE to do is to expand the net.
No, I agree with that. I've listened to Tom Holman, and I'm on board with that. But these protesters are out there saying that they're all about the immigration issue, but yet they are attacking. How about the business people that can't conduct their business down there? They are shut off. They can't get deliveries. They've got no customers. Are they helping ICE? They're not helping ICE, but yet we're gonna attack them. And then you've got the infrastructure of the city. Who's going to pay for that? The taxpayers are. And we've already said California's not going to help ICE. So, I mean, those police cruisers, those are $100,000 a piece. How many of them got torched? We're all going, and they're attacking law enforcement, who is not helping ICE. So it can't be. It's not about immigration. It's about the other sources are trying to whip everybody into a lather over anything. Black Lives Matter, transgender, Palestinians, and it's all in an effort to take our government down. I really believe it is. They're just gonna create so much chaos that we all just throw up our hands and say we don't want to fight anymore. And Trump is in their way. The right is in their way, and I think they'll do anything to take us out. I wonder what would happen if the people who are anti-illegal immigration and pro-Trump actually formed a perimeter around the protesters and started closing in.
No, don't do that. No, because right now what they're doing is overwhelm the cops. If the cops are overwhelmed, what do you think what would happen to counter-protesters? So don't do that. The way to advance your... Yes. The way to advance your argument is to do exactly what you're doing, is to go out there and make an argument that's more convincing than their argument. And that's what happened in the election. This was a subject that was debated, where Donald Trump took one position and Kamala Harris took another. The voters were able to hear the arguments, and the voters sided with Donald Trump. You look at the polls right now on the subject of immigration. That's his strongest issue by far. And the more chaos that's created in the streets, the more lopsided that issue is in his favor. So it's not as if people aren't paying attention and they aren't going to be punished due to their actions. They will. It's just they're going to be punished in other ways. The mayor and the governor, they have no interest in enforcing the laws and protecting our police officers and protecting our infrastructure and all the things that they're supposed to do with those offices. But what is happening is they're losing the approval of the American people. The American people are watching their televisions, and it doesn't matter what Maxine Waters says. It doesn't matter what Karen Bass says. People are ingesting what's happening with their own two eyes, and they know what's going on in the streets of Los Angeles, and they know who's lying to them. And if Karen Bass thinks that's a good look, and if Gavin Newsom thinks that that's a good look, they're wrong. They have no national career anymore. Gavin Newsom will never be president of the United States. Karen Bass will never be president or vice president of the United States. Turn out the lights. The party is over for both of them. They may know it. They may not know it. I'm not exactly sure. But if they think what they're doing now is going to benefit them and their political career, they're wrong. Thank you for the call. Let's go to Hennessy in Orange. Hennessy, hello.
Hello, yes. In the late 60s in Chicago, the riots, the mayor responded by saying, if you see someone with a Molotov cocktail or an arsonist, shoot to kill. Now, the reason that was done was it gave the cops confidence to know that they can handle the situation and that they had backup. This is a situation where the police don't know if they have any backup, and they don't want to be thrown in prison for something, obviously. And then also it gave when you make a comment like that, people who are considering going out and rioting have to reconsider because there's a serious nature. Now, I know that's extreme for today's age, but it showed backing from a political figure that they actually believed in law and order. Also, this notion that this individual who was driving the truck and was dropping stuff off, isn't that like how a RICO case would start? You would find the small people to get to the larger ones and then the larger ones. Because at the end of the day, this is not rioting. This is an annihilation of society where there is a nefarious element to all of this. And it seems like there is a coordinated takeover, and we're always talking about the proverbial Soros. But there are other people involved in this. And Baghdad Bob Maxine it looks like a fool out there. And you were correct in saying that it was interesting watching Gavin's I'm a complete lunatic anarchist apology tour. That's toast now. And he should know that. His true colors just came out. Because how anyone in a society can feel that this is okay seems bizarre to me. This is very dangerous. And the position of the illegals is done, like you're saying. You would probably want to hide as opposed to exposing yourself. And now they're getting American flags out there to convince the public that everything is A-OK. And it's not. They show their true colors, and they want to spread this. So there's an agenda, and I think forget about these protesters per se. I'd like to see the trail of money. Follow the money, and you'll find the evil, because there is something else more nefarious going on that is extremely dangerous in this country. They're turning traditional red cities blue. In Texas, Austin is an example. And the planting, the fertilizing, the proverbial marinating of the DAs is a very smart move. It's a higher return on your investment than a federal position. So thanks, guys, for listening to me for this length of time, and I pray for those people in L.A. And when somebody says it's not happening throughout Los Angeles, that's like someone in Dusseldorf, Germany in 1945 saying, well, it's just happening in Berlin. That is not the case. Everyone gets impacted in some way when there is sieges of cities. So it's a very naive comment. So
well, it's also people that get upset when they say, oh, the news is nothing but negative. Why is it that you focus on the plane that crashed and not the thousands of planes that landed safely? Well, planes landing safely is not news. The plane that crashes is news. And if you don't report on that, you're not doing your job. Thank you for the call, sir. Let's go to Klaus in Thousand Oaks. Klaus, hello.
Klaus?
Are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Sorry. I'm getting to a conference room right now.
We got time. We're here till 3.
No, Bob. I know you guys got a guest coming up, and I'll try to make this quick in 5 minutes. So to those who are listening who didn't vote for Trump, those of us who did vote for Trump in California, who contributed to the popular vote throughout the country, voted for him because we had hope that someone would stick it to Gavin Newsom and Care Bear Karen Bass and say enough is enough. And there was some official at the top of the 1 o'clock hour in the news segment that said that Trump was the sponsor of this violence that's going on in Los Angeles, and then now it's spread to San Francisco and some cities in Texas. Sorry for the lack of passion, but I am at in a work conference room right now, so I don't want to sound like a maniac. But are you bloody kidding me? You're saying that Trump wrote a check and sponsored all this violence, not George Soros, not the NGOs that had money rerouted from the California COVID fund into these NGOs that are sponsoring the buying and distribution of pallets of cinder blocks and bricks and industrial-sized bags of rocks and assaulting police officers and burning down cop cars, pinning down cops under the 101 freeway overpass. It is evil what's going on right now. And unfortunately, you have a good portion of millennials, those who are in their late 20s to early 40s, who got educated under the communist takeover education system of this country. And this is their cause. This is what they live for. They have nothing else in life, unfortunately. They're not working. They're not contributing positively to society. And this is what they do. And they're paired with those who are paid agitators, and then those who are illegally here. It's insulting to keep calling them illegal immigrants. My ancestors were immigrants, whether they came through Ellis Island or the Mayflower or, unfortunately, on the slave boats. So, but it happened, and they got here, and we have documentation. These people are not taxpayers other than sales tax and whatnot, but just the level of ingratitude is disgusting. And to those who are outside of the state, whether they moved outside the state and they're listening to the show, or they're just they still reside in the states that they're originally from and say, oh, that's not going to happen here. Guess what? Texas is turning blue. Tennessee is turning blue. Florida, it ebbs and flows. If you do not educate your children with the values of this country, what is right and what is wrong, and if you do not educate the voting class, and if you do not clear out the voting rolls, this is coming for your city. This is coming for your state.
All right. Thank you for the call, Klaus. We appreciate your call. And Randy, we have breaking news.
A federal judge has denied Gavin Newsom's effort to force President Trump to withdraw the National Guard from L.A.
Quote, a federal judge has denied the state of California's request to stop Trump from using the California National Guard to keep the peace and keep order during these protests, end quote. So the courts ruled against Gavin. It is our pleasure to welcome our next guest to the program. He is the Assembly Republican leader, also representing California's 3rd District in the California State Legislature. You can get him on X at J_Gallagher AD3. Assembly Leader James Gallagher, welcome.
John, good to be back with you.
Well, thanks so much for stopping by. So, obviously, right now, Los Angeles is a mess where protesters have taken over the streets of downtown Los Angeles yet again after many stores last night were looted in downtown L.A., where the cops obviously not there to stop it or were overwhelmed, in the words of the LAPD chief McDonald. The company line down here has been that nothing happened. The mayor was all over television, both cable and local TV, essentially saying, well, it was really nothing much more than graffiti. And yeah, there were a couple of isolated incidents here and there where people did things that were illegal, but it was a peaceful protest. Maxine Waters, the congresswoman from South L.A., went on television and said nothing violent happened at all.
And don't just rely on what you're being told or the few incidents that you saw.
So she straight up said nothing happened. And then today, A Los Angeles City Councilwoman, a Democratic member of the LA City Council, Imelda Padilla, said, oh, yeah, and they were violent and they want to get more violent.
Those who are protesting want to get louder. They want to get more violent.
What do you make of how they're explaining away what's going on?
Well, yeah, and according to Gavin Newsom, everything is handled here. He doesn't need any help from the federal government. We've clearly got it handled. Clearly not the case, right? I mean, it's unbelievable what they've allowed to happen, the chaos. But it is par for the course for Gavin Newsom's California and the Democrats who control the major cities. They don't punish criminals. They let them take over the city. They let them, as we saw on video in real time, throw bricks at law enforcement vehicles, firebomb CHP, from the overpass, and just take, basic mayhem is allowed to, happen on the streets of LA. And it's frustrating, and then to hear, these Democratic officials act like nothing's happened and that, hey, we don't need any, God forbid, Donald Trump, bring in, the military, the National Guard, to restore law and order in this place, because that would ruin the obviously great track record that these guys have. I mean, it's just, you can't make this up, and again, it is all a function of bad governance, failed leadership, and terrible policy.
And before entering the legislature, you're a Berkeley-trained attorney. You went to Berkeley for your undergraduate degree, UC Davis for law school, correct?
That sounds so good, doesn't it?
Okay, I want to play something for you because this is brand new. This just took place at LA City Hall, where Democratic City Councilwoman Imelda Padilla publicly called on the LAPD to obstruct justice. Listen to this.
Can we use technology like AI technology to create a situation where your department can identify, hey, there's agents, non-city of LA, in a neighboring town. Everyone go on alert in a way where you can support our business community and our immigrant community to know that it's time. That's something related to the lack of due process, the lack of warrants is about to hit our town. I'm asking a creativity question here. What can your department do to do more to warn us, to warn the business community that outside of our LA borders, coming in from Inglewood, coming in from Antelope Valley, I don't know, you can warn us so that we can warn our folks in the spirit of your loyalty to the city of Los Angeles?
So you're asking me to warn you about an enforcement action being taken by another agency before it happens?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can't do that.
Why not?
That would be obstruction of justice. You may want to talk to the city attorney about that.
It's really hard to believe, Assemblyman Gallagher, but what do you make of that request that was made in a council meeting in front of the public?
Yeah, man. I mean, it sounds like Exhibit A of, a criminal investigation. I mean, exactly that. Like, if you are telling law enforcement to help people avoid being criminally investigated and taken into custody when they've been, committing a crime, right? I mean, like that's exactly what she laid out and said, hey, how can you help us, escape essentially an enforcement action and impede our federal law enforcement. And that is essentially what all of this has come down to. Our ICE and federal law enforcement authorities have come into these communities because they get no cooperation from local law enforcement because of sanctuary state policy, SB 54, which was passed a few years ago. And so they come in to do their jobs, to apprehend criminal illegal aliens. And we saw the rap sheets on some of these folks that they were apprehending. They're involved with drug trafficking. They're involved with human trafficking. They're victimizing the very immigrant and citizen community of Los Angeles that these members of the city council are sworn to protect, right, and to look out for. And they want to stand up for them and impede the investigation, the apprehension of these criminals, and ask local law enforcement to help them impede that. I mean, it's completely outrageous. But, this is obviously coming from somebody who's not very intelligent.
I think that's probably true. Now, speaking of the courts, a federal judge, and this just broke moments ago, denied Gavin Newsom's effort to force President Trump to withdraw the National Guard from L.A. and sided with President Trump. Here is a quote from, this is Jake Tapper who broke the news, quote, "A federal judge has denied the state of California's request to stop Trump from using the California National Guard to keep the peace and keep order during these protests," end quote. What's your reaction to that?
Yeah, I mean, Gavin Newsom continues to lose in court, right? Just case after case of him just going after, and he said this at the beginning of the year. He wanted to Trump-proof California, right? And he told the legislature to pass his proposal to do $50 million worth of taxpayer dollars, our California taxpayer dollars, to sue Donald Trump, even before the guy had even taken office. So we've known from day one that Gavin Newsom just continues to posture and set things up so that he can fight Donald Trump. But what are you fighting against? You're the one, buddy, who is in control. You're the governor of the state that is in total chaos right now, where you, because of your policies, because of your leadership, have fires on the streets. You have people being assaulted. You have officers who are being impeded of doing their duty. You have streets being taken over by thugs who are burning cars in the middle of the street. And you're telling everybody, I've got it under control. I don't need the president's help. I don't need the National Guard. It's not surprising to me that he once again lost in court.
What do you make of the fact that Gavin Newsom is spending most of his time going after President Trump on social media or launching these bizarre lawsuits that have no merit instead of being boots on the ground in L.A. and making sure that public property is protected and that police officers are safe and that stores don't get looted? He doesn't seem to be even slightly concerned with any of that, and he seems more concerned with positioning himself as the chief foil of Donald Trump on cable news.
Yeah, well, we know the answer to that, right? I mean, he wants to run for president. And everything that Gavin Newsom does is about trying to run for president. And so all of this is posturing. We're not seeing him actually provide any kind of leadership. That's again, the modus operandi of Gavin Newsom, not to actually lead, just to, make grand gestures, make a big splash, make a big announcement, and now, I think he also is trying to get progressive voters on his side for when he goes to run in the presidential primary. He wants to show that he was a fighter, that he's fighting Donald Trump, that he's, fighting, I guess for criminal illegal immigrants. Apparently that's a popular thing to do in progressive Democratic circles, to protect the man from Maryland, otherwise known as MS-13 gang member. These are the kinds of things that many progressives who want to be president are trying to make themselves into the darling of the left. And so Gavin's following along in that pattern. And that's what we're seeing. Unfortunately, for all of us who need California to be governed and for there to be law and order, we are seeing nothing but.
Is this par for the course for him? Because if you look back at different initiatives that he's attached himself to, initiatives that are generated to attract national attention. When the state of Arizona passed a law that restricted abortion rights, he made it so that abortion providers from Arizona could come to California to provide abortions for Arizonans who couldn't get them. He was all over cable news, made national news, all over social media. And as it turns out, not one abortion provider took him up on the offer. Nothing came from it. He made a big deal about trying to get rid of nuclear energy. We're going to get rid of all the nuclear plants in California. And we can't keep the lights on for the AI companies if you do that. So Gavin Newsom very quietly kicked the can down the road on that. He generated all of this attention, put himself on national news, and as it turns out, there was almost zero follow-through with any of it. Is that basically how he runs shop?
It's exactly. The other one I remembered as you were talking is the healthcare corps during COVID-19. He was going to recruit all these, retired doctors and nurses to come back and help, and they were going to make sure that we were ready, for the virus, right? And there was like 5 people that signed up. He makes these big announcements. He makes these, pronouncements. Another program, another $1 billion spent on this thing, right? But there's no follow through. There's no execution. He is a terrible implementer, right? And that is the last thing you want in an executive, right? And a president and a governor is someone who can actually get the job done. And Gavin Newsom is definitely that. He never follows through. He can't point. We talk about homelessness, right? It's worse. It's demonstrably worse after him spending $24 billion of our taxpayer dollars. And he'd have you believe there are no encampments, that he's cleaned them all up. The guy is the epitome of the emperor is wearing no clothes, right? And, it's all starting to fall. I think people are really onto it now. The media is much more onto it now. And so I think this is not going to work for Gavin Newsom, but that is certainly what he is trying to do.
All of the pictures so far of Gavin Newsom that he's allowed to be put out are of him in the command center surrounded by LAPD, the LA Sheriff's Department, other uniformed personnel. He won't let Karen Bass in the room. I wonder if that's an oversight. But those are the pictures that he's allowed to be put out on social media. He has not shown up to downtown LA. Is he avoiding downtown LA for the same reason that Biden and Harris avoided the border, which is it's a picture story? And if your point is, the border's secure, you can't have people climbing over the wall over your shoulder because then you'd look ridiculous. If you're Gavin Newsom and you're saying everything's fine, everything's under control, you can't have people looting a 7-Eleven over your shoulder while you're making that point. Otherwise, you look like a buffoon. Is that why you think he's not physically there?
Yeah, I think that's it. I think that's part of it. He doesn't want that. And then remember, he was down there in the aftermath of the wildfires, and look how that worked out, right? I mean, that didn't really help him. It sort of, amplified the failures that were going on. The failure of water to be in water hydrants, water to be in a reservoir, firefighters that were, laid off before and were not available for this conflagration. So, even when Gavin Newsom is sort of on the scene, it doesn't really help anything. And so I think maybe he learned the lesson from that, as not showing up. And I think the last thing is maybe he's just trying to avoid Karen Bass asking him for more money, because every time she does that, he's going to have to tell her, hey, we're broke. Sorry, I bankrupted the state. There's no money for you. And he's doing everything he can to avoid the mayor and her constant requests for billions of dollars.
Assembly Republican leader James Gallagher, representing California's 3rd District. You can get him on X at J_Gallagher AD3. Assembly Leader James Gallagher, thank you for your time.
Thank you, John.
Do we have time to play that Imelda Padilla clip one more time where she asked the LAPD to obstruct justice?
Why, yes. Yes, we do. And I'm going to play the full version of it on the KABC News Blitz on 790 at 5 o'clock.
Can we use technology like AI technology?
Let me fast forward it.
I'm asking a
I'm not sure what you're asking me.
creativity question here. What can your department do to do more to warn us, to warn the business community that outside of our LA borders, coming in from Inglewood, coming in from Antelope Valley, I don't know, you can warn us so that we can warn our folks in the spirit of, your loyalty to the city of Los Angeles.
So you're asking me to warn you about an enforcement action being taken by another agency before it happens?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can't do that.
Why not?
That would be obstruction of justice. You may want to talk to the city attorney about that.
They asked the LAPD to break the law to tip them off whenever there's an immigration raid coming so they can tell everyone to get away.
And this was at an official city council meeting.
I'm not an attorney. That's totally illegal.
Just remember, kids, we found that clip first.
It's going to go everywhere tonight. It's the John Phillips Show.